Hi everybody, it's Mr. Vendetta here again. I've got a fun video for you today. It's all about math, but it is not the kind of math that has to do with adding or subtracting or counting. In fact, we're not even going to use numbers at all today. Today I'm going to teach you a new word, and we're going to look at math in a little bit of a different way. The word I want to teach you is, I'm going to turn the camera so we can see the board. There's the word. Now, the word has 5 letters, and I'm noticing an S and a P at the beginning. Sp, sp, sp. Then we have an A with a silent E at the end. So that A is not going to say A, it's going to say A. So we've got spay. Now the C is not the C that sounds like K, it's the C that sounds like S, the other sound for C. So let's put it together. Sp, ace, space, space. Now, I know you've heard that word before. Space is the area that surrounds the Earth. It's where we see the stars, the moon, and the sun. That is space. Sometimes people call it outer space. This is a different kind of space. This kind of space means an area. Now remember, we talked about the word area when we learned the word region, when we learned about California's 4 natural regions. And I said a region is an area. Now an area, a space is also an area. It takes up a certain amount of room, and it has a certain shape to it. That's space that I'm talking about today. That's space in math. So today we're going to be talking about space. We're going to be talking about an area, a shape of some sort that we can put things in. Now, the other word, actually it's 2 words that I want to teach you, is going to go along with space. Here are those other 2 words. Let me turn the camera again. Now, we've got another word with a silent E. P-L, pl. Silent E makes it say A. Plane, plane, plane. If I take off that silent E, it says plan, plan. Now it says plane. The silent E tells the A to be long. It says A. Now, this is another one of those words that I know you've heard before. A plane is something that you can fly on, right? It's an airplane. Well, this plane means something a little bit different. And we've talked about this before. I've told you this word a couple of times. Plane means flat. Like the top of your desk is a plane because it's flat. The floor is a plane because it's flat. The walls are planes because they're flat. So the first part of this second card is plane. Now think of it not like an airplane, but flat. Now the second word, look at that. We've got SH. Can anybody remember what SH sounds like? Shh. We have another silent E, so that's going to make the A say A. Shape, shape, shape. Put an S on the end, shapes. Plane shapes. Plane shapes are shapes that are flat. Plane shapes are shapes that are flat. Think of rectangles, think of circles, think of triangles, trapezoids, rhombuses, parallelograms, trapezoids. Those are plane shapes. So we're going to be working today with space, which is an area that we can fill up or put things in, and plane shapes. That's what we're going to put into our space, some plane shapes. So let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Now here is a painting that someone did on a brick wall. You can see the bricks in the wall. Look at the different colors in that artwork. Can you see some plane shapes that you recognize? I know you know this one with 3 sides. And I know you know this one that looks like a rectangle tipping over. In fact, if I examine or look at that piece of art very closely, I can name lots of different plane shapes. So what I've got here is a diagram. Remember, a diagram is a picture that might have words in it that's going to teach us about something. These are all the plane shapes that are in that piece of art. These plane shapes, a trapezoid, a pentagon, which has 5 sides, a triangle, another trapezoid, another trapezoid, another trapezoid, a triangle, a parallelogram, a triangle, a trapezoid, a parallelogram, and finally a tiny triangle. Those are the plane shapes that are in this space, and they create a piece of art. But for us today, they're also creating a piece of math, because we're going to learn something about space while we look at this art and some other pieces of art too. So let's take a look back here. And I want you to notice something right away. These plane shapes fill the space. There's no space without a plane shape in it. There's no empty space at all. And none of the plane shapes go outside the space. They stay in the space and they fill it up. And we can see that right here on the diagram. Now what I want to do is take a look at a couple pieces of art that also use space and plane shapes. Here's 2 of them right here. Now, this lesson is coming from my friend Jo Boaler. She's a math teacher at Stanford University, right here, about 2 hours away from where we live, Stanford University. And Jo is what we call a mathematician because she studies math and she's learned about math and she teaches about math. And she calls this mathematical art because it's space and plane shapes, but when you put them together, color them, and arrange them in a way that you like, it becomes a piece of art. This piece of art right here was inspired. That means that the person who created it was thinking about a piece of art called Red, Yellow, Blue by a man named Ellsworth Kelly. Now, Ellsworth Kelly did a lot of mathematical art like this, where he used space and plane shapes to create a piece of art. Here's another one. It's a little more complex. That means it's got a little more in it because it's got lots of tiny plane shapes. It's inspired by a painting called Composition 2 by a man named Piet Mondrian. Piet Mondrian. And Piet Mondrian did this piece of art way back in 1921. That was almost 100 years ago, and people are still looking at it today. That's how much people like it and how important they think it is. Now you can see that Piet did the same thing that Ellsworth did. He used plane shapes to fill a space. It happens to be the same space, square and square. Now, look at these plane shapes. Look at these plane shapes. Can you recognize any of them? I know you know that's a square. And behind that square is a yellow square. And behind that one is a green square. And behind that one is a blue square. We've got foreground, midground, and background here. Now, Piet's painting is all squares of different sizes and different colors. By the way, Ellsworth Kelly painted this in 1963. I was 1 year old when that painting was made. Wow. Let's look at a couple of others. Actually, let's just look at one more. Now, this painting was done by a man named Sol LeWitt. Sol LeWitt. And in a couple videos from now, we're going to do a whole lesson about Sol LeWitt and his artwork. This is one of the paintings that he made, and it's called Wall Drawing number 1112. And he did this painting in 2003, which was 17 years ago. You weren't born yet, but Mom and Dad were. I want you to look at Sol LeWitt's painting. I want you to look at not only the shapes, squares and rectangles, but I also want you to see if you can see a pattern. Can you see squares getting bigger and bigger? They're all different colors, but they go around the space and they fill it up. There's nothing empty at all. Well, your assignment for today is going to be to create your own mathematical art using space and plane shapes. And parents, if you go into the video support section on the website, you'll find materials that you can either copy or print that the kids can use with this art activity. Let me show you exactly what you will find. You're going to find a blank graph paper. Blank means empty. Graph paper is filled with little squares. We've used graph paper a lot in class, so I know you'll recognize that. Now, I've created a piece of mathematical art using the same graph paper that you're going to be using. And I'm going to show it to you so that you can see kind of what I'm interested in you doing. But I want you to remember, don't copy mine. Create your own. Use your own colors. Use your own imagination. Use your own plane shapes. Use your own designs. Use your own creativity. That's kind of like your imagination. Your creativity is what allows you to make things and invent things. Use your own creativity to make your own mathematical art. Just use mine as an example of something you can look at and get ideas from. Okay? I know you know I was going to say that. Don't copy. All right. So here's the one that I made. And I just used crayons for this. That's how simple it was. Now I want you to look at the space that I have. It's shaped like a big square. That's the space. And I want you to look at the plane shapes that I used to fill that space. Notice that every part of the space is filled, every part is colored, and nothing goes outside the space. I've used just the space. If you're coloring and you go a little bit outside the space, that's not a big problem at all. But I want you to understand that the purpose of this activity, or the reason that I want you to do it, is because I want you to be able to fill a space without going outside of it. I want you to be very exact in how you do this. Now look at the different plane shapes that I've included in my artwork. I have a big red, 3 sides, 3 angles, triangle. I have a green square. I have a red parallelogram. And I have an aqua-colored parallelogram. Here's a little green rectangle. Here's a trapezoid. And you know what? These are also trapezoids. Trapezoids can be like rectangles or squares that are tipping in, but sometimes only one side tips in. That's okay. It's still a trapezoid. Finally, I've got 1, 2, 3 triangles and an orange rhombus. Why is this a rhombus and not a parallelogram? Because this is a square that's tipping over, not a rectangle that's tipping over. All right, so this is what I'm going to have you do for today's video activity. It's math, it's art, it's about space and filling a space with plane shapes, and it is good exercise for your brain. Now I want to tell you a little bit about what types of shapes you can put in your space, because it's going to be a little bit different than Ellsworth Kelly's painting, where the squares were in front of or behind each other. So let's take a look. All right. First of all, your plane shape, all the sides have to be straight. They can be vertical, horizontal, or diagonal, but they have to be straight. All of your vertices, what is that? A vertex is a corner on a plane shape. A vertex is a corner on a plane shape. A vertex makes an angle, like in a triangle. Let's take a look. All of your vertices, or all of your corners, have to go out. They cannot go in like this, or this, or this. Your shapes have to be, have straight sides, they have to be closed up, and all the corners have to be going out, or all the vertices have to be going out. They cannot go in like this. On Ellsworth Kelly's painting, which was called Red, Yellow, and Blue, he did have shapes like this one. Even though we know that there's squares back there, we can't see them all the way. So the corners are going inward, not outward. Alrighty? So I don't want you to use any plane shapes like this. I want them to be like this. If you want to challenge yourself and do a second one, you're welcome to use any types of shapes that you'd like. But for this first activity for me, I'd like you to have all your plane shapes more like this, not like this, where the vertices are going inward, not outward. Okay? So, that's the end of my video for today, and that's your assignment for today on this video. I hope you have a good time. I hope you create something very, very interesting. By the way, when you create your mathematical art, you can do it like these two, or like the one that I did, where it doesn't really make anything at all. It doesn't make a picture of anything. Or you can make your mathematical art into a picture using plane shapes. As long as you're using the shapes that I showed you, with the vertices going outward and the sides straight, as long as you're doing that, and as long as you fill the space without going outside of it, that's absolutely fine. So you can make a picture, you can make a symmetrical pattern, you can make a design of some sort. Think about everything you've learned, think about the directions that I gave, and then enjoy yourself and have some fun with math and art. Now I'm wondering, I haven't talked to you about deep breathing for a while, so I think I'm going to take about 30 seconds, remember 30 seconds, to do some deep breathing. And today I want to do waterfall breathing. Waterfall breathing, all right? Waterfalls are coming rivers, and it's when the river drops down like this, and so the water falls over that edge, and then the river continues on below it. So waterfall breathing. We're going to breathe in, and then the river is going to flow out. Ready? In through your nose, out through your mouth. Now let's hold this one. The river is frozen. I hope you're doing some deep breathing every day. Remember, it's good for your brain, it's good for your mind. It keeps your brain calm, so it allows your mind to focus. It's also very good for your lungs, and it's good to keep the blood circulating through your body to make sure everything's moving where it's supposed to move. Okay? I enjoyed talking to you today, and I will see you again very soon for another video. Bye-bye.